I feel like Warhammer 40,000 is like the final major choice in a video game. It's like the final leap you take before it's like, okay, there's no going back now. You're one of the biggest nerds on the planet. Congratulations. You pretty much have to say to yourself, okay, I'm already into nerdy things. I don't like getting pussy. I don't really like having a lot of friends. I like spending way too much money on things that go on my shelf or that I play on my computer. And you love constantly being paired up with that weird smelly kid in high school who loved playing Smash Bros. And had a ton of anime pins on his backpack. Now there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but we all know that one kid in high school. You're thinking of him right now. Dude would just take things a little too far sometimes. And it's like he was allergic to deodorant and showering. And I say that Warhammer 40,000 is that final leap because it takes all the good and all the bad of nerd culture and turns it up to 11. The lore is like insanely cool, but at the same time, batshit crazy. There's so much going on. It's so hard to understand at first. It's so confusing. If you want to play the actual tabletop game, which is what the lore is like made around, then hold off on your dreams about buying a new house. It's not happening. But goddamn, does the game look fun. I haven't actually played it. My bank account is all zeros right now, and I'm still thinking about picking up a box. And even if you spend crazy amounts of money for a box, you gotta assemble them, paint them, unless you want to pay somebody to do that for you. But then that means you can essentially customize your own people in real life, and you can be a little bit artistic. The only thing Warhammer's really missing is like a TV or movie adaptation, but now the guy who every straight nerd would go gay for is making that a reality, so they got pretty much all the bases covered because now we're getting to video games and what this video is actually about. God damn, it took a long time to get here. Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War has made me a fan, and I've taken that final leap. It took a while. I had played one of the games before. I played like Chaos Gate, the XCOM one. It's a good game, but my friend finally started talking to me about it, and he's like, let's hop on Dawn of War and play some games, because I had it for some reason. I don't even remember buying it. And I'm a big fan of Company of Heroes, which is made by Relic, who make Dawn of War, and I was like, fuck it, let's do it. And oh my god. I get it. Yes, I know I showed this cutscene already. No, I do not have dementia. Chill out, I'm gonna explain. So when you boot up the base game for the first time, this is what plays. It's unskippable. You cannot skip this cutscene. And that might be one of the greatest creative decisions ever made by these guys. Because it not only captures the essence of the game, what you're gonna be doing, you know, strategic, you're commanding large forces, it also really captures the essence of Warhammer. We just defended a big push, let's charge this enemy force that thrives in melee combat. And then I'm gonna run this flag up the hill, plant it like I just won some crazy battle, like I actually did something. Now, in reality, you're probably looking at this, he just died for nothing. But if this was the tabletop game, he just captured the objective, they may have just won the game. And in Dawn of War, he may have just got his line of sight for his team. They might be able to drop in more Space Marines using the orbital relay. And this cutscene alone shows you, getting into this game, that the people who made it, they know what they're doing. They know how to make a good strategy game, and they are in love with this universe, and they know how to do it justice. Now, unfortunately, not all the cutscenes can look like this. All the ones for the campaigns are rendered in the game, and this is a strategy game, so they just don't look good. But the beautiful people who made this game, they were like, okay, we understand this limitations in the visual department here. Let's get the greatest voice talent you've ever seen in a strategy game. And not even in the cutscenes, just clicking on the units, they have so many cool quotes, and they're just said with such passion for the universe. It really gets you into the lore and what's happening on screen.
For the Emperor!
When I played the Winter Assault campaign, in the intro cutscene when the dude is making the speech, I didn't even really know the lore like that, and then I got chills, bro. I don't even know this Emperor dude, and I would die for him. And then when you actually get into battle, clicking on your units, it feels like they have some sort of personality, and it makes it even worse when they're engaged in melee combat with 20,000 orcs and they're screaming for help, for you to help them, and you can't do anything. And this isn't Company of Heroes, so there's no like quick retreat button, fall back button, so you just have to look at them get maimed and sacrifice their lives so you can capture a victory point halfway across the map. And I know I said the in-game cutscenes look weird, but that doesn't mean that the graphic style is weird. For being a game that came out in 2004, I still think the aesthetic, the art style, and the vibe still holds up to this day. And I think that's probably the biggest reason a lot of people still play this, because it captures the universe so well. And more specifically, it captures every faction so well. And I think that is by far this game's biggest strength. Both in presentation and gameplay wise, the factions are just so unique. It's hard to not want to play all of them. Except for the Eldar. If you want to play Eldar, there's something wrong with you. When I said that Warhammer takes the best and worst of nerd culture, it applies like times 20 for Elves. Because everything that could make Elves cool is in this game, but then all the stuff that makes people hate Elves in fantasy is dialed up to like a million here. Especially Dark Elves. Just look up what they be doing. It's disgusting. Why would you want to play an army that's associated with that? So besides the filthy Elves, all the factions are appealing to play because they look cool and have their own distinct style. Space Marines, all their shit drops in from space when you start building. You can drop in troops later in the game. And they got these over-the-top super soldier voices and voice lines where they're just talking about how much they hate aliens.
Beware the alien, the mutant, the heretic.
Imperial Guards bases look like bunkers. Their commissars, there's an ability where they can just shoot a guy in the squad and it makes the others fight better. Chaos Space Marines got all these like demonic buildings that are made from like rituals and like punishments and stuff. It's kind of cool, kind of freaky though. If you're into BDSM, you might like this one, or you might like the Dark Elves, I guess. But maybe only if you saw BDSM and were like, you know what, this isn't hardcore enough. And if you did say that, I would say before you play the Dark Elves, maybe seek therapy or like, I don't know, a job. And of course, I gotta talk about my favorite faction aesthetically. Maybe not to play as, but the orcs are just hilarious because there's dumb British people. Seeing all their buildings, all their vehicles, see how they just are just thrown together, and the only reason they work is because they believe they will. I think as a whole, just the orc faction in general is such a cool idea. And they're just funny. Like when you click on a building, you hear the chants of like, wah, 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 wah. And some of their units are called knobs, and there's like mega knobs, so it's like they're just called big Johnsons. Why do I think this shit is cool? Okay, so this is a video about a video game, and what's the point of a game looking fantastic if the gameplay sucks? Luckily, Dawn of War doesn't have that problem. Now, before we start getting to brass tacks here, let me remind you of one thing. I'm an idiot. I'm not gonna talk about gameplay here for a strategy game and pretend that I'm some crazy pro meta gamer that can tell you how to play the game correctly. I'm just like, I just want to make cool battles and maybe sometimes win. Now, obviously, I enjoy learning the systems, but I'm not gonna bombard you with like pro gamer knowledge. I'm just gonna tell it how it is, like, hey, this looks cool, this is a good thing, I had fun with it. More than using calculus to calculate the derivative of how fast an orc gets to this point on map C. So getting into this, the thing I like the most about this game, big battles, big booms, big lasers everywhere. You can amass giant armies in this game and just like throw them into each other, and I really enjoyed like a final push. Not only in skirmish games, but the campaign does a really good job of not only just being a really long tutorial, but there's always like a finale in each mission where like you push one final objective with all your units, and it's just glorious. Now, when I play most strategy games, I like to sit on my balls just a little bit, take my time, play at my own pace, play a little bit passively, and I also really like building up defenses on certain points, especially when I play Company of Heroes. Now, if you're like me in that way with strategy games and you hop on Dawn of War and you want to employ that same strategy, prepare to die by 1,000,000 orcs. Right out of the gate, if you aren't pushing, fighting enemies for control of resource points, and then building up those points so you get even more resources at a fast, brisk pace, no lollygagging, you're probably going to lose. And I learned this the hard way. I was lazy with my base building. I didn't have a whole lot of resources coming in. I was just slowly expanding, building listening posts, and then, oh my god, what is that? It's 1,000,000 orcs coming to play with my butt. And I'm not gonna lie, at first I did not like this. But once I challenged myself to actually match the game's pace and go the speed they wanted me to go instead of doing my own thing, I was having a ton of fun in skirmishes trying to see how fast I could go to build up my army to where I could actually push large enemy forces into their territory that they quickly secured. Plus, you add what I stated already, there are 9 armies in this game, and each of them have different approaches to this early game stage and into the mid game, into the late game, so it's a bunch of stuff to learn, and it's a challenging yet very rewarding learning curve. And you have to think about what the armies you're fighting are doing. If you're playing against orcs, what guns am I going to use to counter them? They have a lot of units, but they're kind of bad, so maybe heavy bolters for this one. And it just turns into high risk, high reward. If you decide to be aggressive too early and push into your enemies when you probably weren't ready, you're probably going to lose because they're going to counter push you, and oh my god, it's 1,000,000 orcs again. Dawn of War's core aggressive gameplay loop keeps me coming back at least once a week to play a couple games with my friends. It's definitely not perfect, the stealth mechanics are stupid, why are there flying vehicles, the pathing is atrocious sometimes for large groups of units, but I didn't really care at the end of the day because while those were minor annoyances for me, the core aggressive gameplay mixed with the incredible aesthetic of this fascinating universe made me a fan of Warhammer 40,000. I will say though, if you're thinking about buying this game, make sure you have a friend to play with you. A lot of the longevity for me is coming from just hopping on and playing a co-op skirmish, although the Dark Crusade campaign does have quite a bit of replayability and variation in it. And I do see quite a few people active on the server browser. It's just if you want to play them, prepare to get just sweated all over because I'm sure these guys are demigods at this game. They've probably been playing it since it came out. They're probably 50 years old still in their mom's basement. But alas, that appears to be the price one has to pay to enjoy Warhammer. You have to be willing to be the biggest nerd on the planet, give up your entire bank account so you can buy miniatures, and just be prepared to look like a fat weirdo because you like green orcs that think that the color red makes things go faster, fighting xenophobic super soldiers that are obsessed with a man that is dead in a chair. That did sound like heresy, my fault. And now because of this fantastic video game, I am doomed to be like them. Which is why I'm starting a Kickstarter to help fund my first box. It's a link in the description. I'm trying to hit a measly goal of $10,000 that should cover half the expenses. I would appreciate your support greatly. And yes, I know I'm really slow at getting videos out. I just like to sit on my balls a little bit. I like to play at my own pace, but now I see that I have to be a bit more aggressive. I'm trying my best to adapt to the YouTube gameplay loop, but hopefully I'm not too late. Oh no. They're here.